Morning, boss. This week's income from the sponsors has cleared, and we're making good profit against our running costs.
Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 16 today for the Singapore Grand Prix in Season 1. If you guys did miss the previous one, the Italian Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But at the start of this episode, we've got two sponsors up for renewal, Satellite and Sudo. We're going to go ahead and renew Sudo because that was a decent goal to get, fastest lap in one session, a big juicy bonus goal. In terms of Satellite though, that was quite tricky at times. 100 laps in a Grand Prix weekend is difficult sometimes when the lap is so long, a la the Belgium Grand Prix, Singapore coming up. So instead, we're going to go back to DSB Optics, which was a decent sponsor. Nice looking logo from that aesthetic standpoint as well, but the goal is finishing in the top 10, which we're always constantly trying to aim for anyway in the race. I think that goal is a bit more obtainable compared to the 100 laps. Like I said, sometimes the circuits we go to, it's just so difficult to get 100 laps done without having just to do like 25 kind of, useless laps essentially in practice or whatever just to get the numbers up. I could be using that time a little more wisely essentially over the race weekend in the recording. So just going through then the activities timeline, going to go for, we've got quite a chunky bit of time till the Singapore Grand Prix. So going for 4 different activities here. 3 days of race simulation, 1 day of driver promotion filming, sponsor events, and then we had a choice between the 3 remaining ones, 2 2-day events and a 3-day event of the second driver PR filming. But instead of, maybe getting some cash and kind of boosting the acclaim, I thought, why don't we actually train the driver a little bit there? So Aitken, our driver, getting some improvement on the racecraft. We actually have trained him already once, as I talked about at the British Grand Prix when we had my game break in between the kind of bodge job we had to do at the British Grand Prix episode to make my game work again. I actually ended up choosing the activity of training him a little bit, so he's actually improved in pace as well. So delving a little bit, I don't honestly know how long Aitken will be with us. He's got a contract till the end of the season, but may as well just from time to time do it here and there. But anyway, now before we move through the activities actual timeline, advance through time, we're going to go ahead and look at purchasing another upgrade on the chassis front of things. We've got the fabrication, the final upgrade on the chassis facility in the HQ here. So we've got plenty of cash, as you can see, just over $4 million after a big payout of over $1 million last episode. So fabrication means we're going to be able to simultaneously upgrade 2 different upgrades on the chassis front. At this stage, the tree doesn't actually allow that in terms of we've not got to a place where that'll be quite useful just yet, but because the chassis has been lagging behind compared to our air upgrades and the engine, I thought it'd be quite useful to get that simultaneous upgrade done. And also, as I mentioned before, I think it's kind of nice just to get every department that's based on performance at least, so aero, engine and chassis, to the same level as each other, essentially, in terms of the spec and the upgrades they've got to each department. So we're slowly getting to that balance there. But we've moved through the entire week ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix. The upgrades we did have pending come in before this one, which is a major chassis weight reduction. So hopefully that will help on the kind of acceleration. We were lagging a little bit behind Hungary, especially on the exits of many corners due to that weight, that extra weight we were carrying. So hopefully that reduction in weight will help us out. The next one along is a further reduction. I was very tempted with that, but I thought I'll just hold off a little bit and just see how many points we can earn in practice and then see what the best bet is and the best way we can go about upgrading the car. So I'm going to leave it for now, but was tempted by the major chassis upgrade. And remember also, on top of the major upgrade we just got to the chassis, we've also got a minor engine power upgrade. And that'll be very useful for this episode because Singapore, it is a bit of a compromise. There are long straights in Singapore, but obviously there's so many tight, twisty corners. It's a street circuit, so you need a lot of downforce. But Singapore, unlike Monaco, you do actually really hinder yourself if you go too high on the wings. So the extra engine power is going to be good to try and counteract running slightly higher wings, but we definitely won't be running like 11.11 like we do at Monaco. Probably more like 8.8 or 9.9, depending on how I feel during practice and just ahead of qualifying. But speaking of practice, before we go into that, then just going to quickly look at the R&D chart, give you guys a good overview of where we stand, with about a third of the season left to go. And you can see for us in this career mode save, things are really, really tight in that midfield, and also all the teams around us are just continuing to push on and making the challenge of catching up properly very difficult. We've made some massive gains in the last 5 episodes, but equally the entire midfield has also continued that as well, and they've kind of matched our trend, especially in the last 2-3 episodes, with the curves almost being the same way for myself, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, but McLaren and Racing Point really starting to catch up now to Red Bull, but it's very tightly packed in that midfield, and that's why we need to continue to upgrade, even though I did get an email at some point, I think it was this episode or last episode, that Carl told me there will be an R&D regulation change. So there will have to be some spending on, resetting and making sure that some of these upgrades carry over to next season, because there will be some sort of reset. I don't know, honestly, when that's going to come in. I'm kind of waiting for the cutscene or the message of when the R&D reset is and what department it's for. So for now, I'm kind of tentatively going ahead with some upgrades because we need to continue to be competitive this season. But at the same time, I think probably, I would say this episode, I think honestly, these might be our last upgrades. There are 4 here. I think these might be our last upgrades until we know what R&D is being reset. We've got, 2 chassis upgrades on the way, 1 minor engine power, and then 1 major aero on the drag reduction. I think that's a decent amount of upgrades that will come in over the next 2 episodes, and then maybe we just try and take the hits of kind of, make and do with what we've got till the end of the season, just to make sure we have enough R&D points saved up to, obviously keep the upgrades that are going to get reset, because as was the case in the last 2 F1 games, we've seen that the R&D regulation reset can be very powerful. If you can maintain your upgrades versus AI teams, that could be crucial for us at the start of next season to actually make some headway and go further up in the championship to where we already are. But anyway, we move through into qualifying then under the night sky, and I must say, for the first time now, I really absolutely love the green accents on our car. It's very tricky with this livery we've chosen because the green is chrome green, so depending on the lighting of the track, when it's been quite cloudy, our livery's looked a little bit off because the green is not as neon green as we wanted it to, because of course the livery scheme was meant to be like a altered sort of, evolution of the Brawn GP color scheme. But the fact that it's nice and, shiny and popping under the floodlights was really nice to see. Little thing, obviously, we didn't really notice it too much at Bahrain because we didn't have too much of it on board. But now, riding on board under the night sky, under floodlights, you can really see it pop. So I'm glad of that. Hopefully in the future we can find a livery that, the neon green really stands out all the time. But for now, I'm still happy with the livery we've got going on for the rest of the season, at least for the season 1. I think we'll look to change it in the new season. But anyway, I digress. We're going through Q1, of course, trying to make it through into Q2. And to be honest, with the upgrades we've got this weekend, chassis weight reduction, engine power, the car is feeling really decent, nice and light, maneuverable through the corners, and I'm confident we can get through here. And that confidence is well founded as we go across the line. P11 at the moment with 15 seconds to go. Eventually it'll be P14, but we do make it through into Q2, which is very good news for us because it's been a little bit disappointing not to make it through in the last 2-3 episodes. And it was actually really tight though, to be fair, in that session between all of us there. The kind of cut-off window quite fine between Gasly, Giovinazzi, Kvyat, and even Aiken was not too far off our pace, which is quite promising for him, I guess, in the race. But we'll now concentrate back to us in the second part of qualifying here. We've got a bit of traffic with Raikkonen, but we went out very early in this Q2 session because the indicator was that there was some rain on the way at the end of Q2. So we went out as early as we can. We're pretty much one of the first people to set our flying lap here, and we sit in 3rd place now. As you can see, the rain is coming out, or the rain is indicated, but then a load of people started going out again, and I got a little bit worried and panicked, so I had to go out on a set of worn soft tyres, but then I bailed on my lap because no one else was improving. So I guess it started to rain halfway through that session, like with 4 or 5 minutes to go, and then by the time I got to the very end of Q2, it stopped raining, and some people tried to go out again, but no one really improved that much. We moved down to P4, but we do make it through, and look at that. Shock knockouts there for both Ferrari cars, Leclerc and Vettel out of Q2, and also Max Verstappen in the Red Bull Racing car down in P15, along with even Norris is surprising, to be fair, because McLaren looked very punchy and his teammates way up in 3rd place here ahead of me. So some shock knockouts in Q2. Both Alfa Romeos make it through into Q3, as do we. It's our first Q3 actually, so this is very exciting times. Our very first time in the top 10 shootout at the Singapore Grand Prix, which I'm surprised at because Singapore, I don't hate this circuit, but it's not particularly one of my best circuits out there. But, that was very lucky in terms of, I think what happened was I set a good time on dries. It started to rain for 2 minutes and then dried up right at the end. and therefore people they weren't able to set a better time. But it looks like the chaos with the rain is not ending, because it's raining now in Q3. I've gone out as early as I could. As soon as I loaded into the garage, I went out on track because it said it was going to be raining for the rest of Q3. So we are literally trying to just get through this lap. It's very damp out there. You can see the rain droplets off the chassis and the halo through the last corner, getting the rear tire on the side and spinning round and reversing across to finish the lap. But you can see the rain is falling. No one else is going to go any faster than we have just then. So we're in P7, and that looks like where we might be for the grid, because it's just going to get heavier and heavier in terms of the rainfall, and it did. And it means that Sergio Perez in the Racing Point car, the pink Mercedes, has qualified on pole position for the Singapore Grand Prix. Bottas second, and Alfa Romeo 3-5 there, with Kimi Raikkonen and then Giovinazzi third and fifth respectively, splitting, Albon splitting those two. Ricciardo, our new rival, ahead of us in P6. We're ahead of Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes car in P8, and then Stroll and Carlos Sainz. So very chaotic Saturday here at the Singapore Grand Prix. I believe it's going to be all dry for tomorrow's race on Sunday, so that's at least in terms, it won't be maybe as chaotic as that session was, or the last two sessions of the day were. But my word, yeah, we got very lucky, I must say, with Q2, and then we've actually done okay to get P7 here, because that was quite a tricky lap to do. The spin at the end, I literally just tried to get on the power as early as I could, but just a bit too much there, span across the line, still finished it out again, and P7 is our highest grid slot. My lucky number P7, who would have thought? So maybe it's meant to be. So let's go to the race and hope for a good one.
Here we go then, it's Formula One in Marina Bay once again, and welcome to all of you at home who join us today for this fascinating race around the baking hot, horribly humid, but very beautiful streets of Singapore. We're here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit today, located in the heart of Singapore. The circuit consists of 23 corners, 13 to the left and 10 to the right. It's a track that's incredibly technical, so don't expect to see the drivers taking too much at full throttle. A warm welcome to Anthony Davidson, who's beside me in the commentary box today. Why don't we start by talking about Valtteri Bottas? That was a great win in the last race. Can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
It's always nice to come into a Grand Prix weekend on a high, but your expectations are based much more on your practice and qualifying runs. So it's the momentum from those sessions that they'll be hoping to carry into the race today.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, edging out Raikkonen, who'll start P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Albon, Giovinazzi, Daniel Ricciardo, and the owner driver, Hamilton, Stroll, Perez. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Sebastian Vettel, Norris, Ocon, Max Verstappen, and Kvyat, Magnussen, Aitken, Romain Grosjean, and Carlos Sainz. Russell, Leclerc, Latifi, and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot today. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
So we're actually going to be starting in P6 then, as unfortunately the pole sitter, Sergio Perez, had a grid penalty. How gutting is that? The Racing Point is not actually going to start on pole position. Valtteri Bottas will. Raikkonen, though, that moves him up onto the front row. So very bizarre scenario. We're in P6, our highest grid slot ever, and we've got like the likes of two Alfa Romeos ahead of us, Ricciardo next to us on the same row. Yeah, very, very odd times, but, that was the chaos of Saturday qualifying around Singapore. In terms of the race, because we obviously did make it through into the top 10 shootout, we have to start on the set of soft tyres we used in Q2, so for the first time, I'm kind of pushed into a strategy that maybe could have been different if we're outside the top 10, so it's going to be a two-stop for us. One set of soft tyres that are going to wear out pretty quickly, I would probably say, if we take a look at last year's game at the Singapore Grand Prix in soft tyres, and then we go to two sets of yellow wall mediums. Hopefully, we have the pace to make this work. I have a hunch that there may be a fair few cars behind us starting on the mediums and trying to make a one-stop work, which probably would have been the strategy that we did had we not made it through into Q3. So I'm a little bit wary that actually qualifying this high may not be a good thing for us, but let's just go out there, enjoy the fact we're starting P6 and try and just make the most of it, hopefully. Because here we go then, from the third row of the grid to 5 red lights to the Singapore Grand Prix. Round number 16 of this season is underway, and Raikkonen has a very slow start off the line. Albon up into second place already. We've had a mediocre one into turn 1 though. Very harsh on the braking there. Lock up on the front left and really just dived it in, and now we find ourselves side by side with Perez for a moment. Squeeze him out. Raikkonen really fending off his teammate Giovinazzi as the two go side by side into the next right-handers. We follow through. Ricciardo remaining in P6 is Bottas from Albon. Raikkonen just ahead of his teammate Giovinazzi, and Perez is all over the back of us. The man who should have been on pole position, driving with a bit of anger, I guess, maybe at the opening lap, trying to get through and cut his way through the field, but he's unable to there in Sector 1 as we hold the racing line and maintain our P6 position and look to try and pressurise Dan Ricciardo. Up ahead, you can see Raikkonen is pulling away from Giovinazzi, so maybe Gio feeling the tyre wear, or maybe that's just the difference between those two drivers really in the same piece of machinery. So he's pulling away. The Alpha looking very strong in the hands of Kimi Raikkonen, I must say, despite the the lack of losing second place off the line to Albon. He's still there in third place in an Alfa Romeo racing car, a midfield car for sure, as we now go round the outside of Ricciardo. Late dive there. He went very defensive and really almost screwed himself by going too tight on the line at the apex and just allowed us to swing through very neatly. And so we're up into P5. Easy overtake to us on Ricciardo, but now on Giovinazzi, will it be as easy as we open up DRS? We know how fast the Alfa Romeo car can be, and we've actually been very familiar with Giovinazzi in the last few episodes. We've used him plenty of times as a bit of a horse and carriage tactic to kind of pull us along, but now I genuinely feel like we've got the pace to beat him here, and he's kind of, holding all us up. You can see there's a bit of a bottleneck behind him because there's a massive amount of clean air just ahead to where his teammate is. So here we go with DRS open here on this lap. Can we make the late lunge to the inside? He locks up on the front left. That massively helps us out, and we get the thing slowed down as well. And we're up into P4 now of the Singapore Grand Prix. Looking very strong indeed. Race pace feeling nice, and tyre wear not actually much of an issue. Unlike last year's game, these soft tyres are feeling pretty okay at this early stage of the Grand Prix. Raikkonen comes in then for an early stop, so we continue on for one more lap, trying to stretch this if we can to just give us some more flexibility maybe at the end of this race with the medium tyres in case the mediums wear out and feel a bit worse, because to be fair, in the last few races there have been some instances where the medium tyres have actually felt worse than the soft, so just giving myself a little bit of breathing room there. But to be fair also, the pace was decent on the softs and felt great. Like, there was no issues with the internal carcass temperature, which has been a major kind of characteristic of Singapore on the F1 game in the last year. But I guess this year, dropping the tyre pressures, as you all should do, by the way, is a kind of tip for the setups. Definitely drop the tyre pressures as low as you kind of dare and can feel comfortable with on the front and rear, because they really help out the tyre temps. But this year especially, they're even more crucial against the AI, and so I guess that's helped us out quite a fair bit on the setup. And so as we swing through, sending a purple last sector, although Hamilton behind us sets a complete purple fast up the Grand Prix, all three sectors, and he's behind P15, behind Ricciardo. We're closing up to Raikkonen, so the hope is maybe Ricciardo can hold up Hamilton as much as he can, and I can overtake Raikkonen and then try and push away, because that would be a net P3 position as it stands. Although, of course, remember, there are plenty of people trying one-stops, I think, in this race, so I think there's going to be actually plenty of overtaking to come in this race if we want to try and get back up anywhere near to where we were just before this first pit stop, a la kind of, P5, 4, 3 maybe, if we can overtake Raikkonen here. He's really struggling on these tyres. For some reason, he's so slow in the last sector. I don't know what's going on here. We're only on lap 10, so only a few laps into this first stint. Really struggling, so we go around the outside then. It's a big old dive, and we make it work. And we're up into P12, and ahead of us, that's Albon. Albon was in second place, remember, pressurising Valtteri Bottas. Not anymore. Albon's held up behind, I think that's Nicholas Latifi here. You can see in the top left there, Latifi with the kind of new 5-man ladder system that this game has on the heads-up display. And Albon up ahead of us, though, overtakes the Williams car, so it's going to be crucial for us to close up to the Canadian and overtake overtake him as quickly as we can and not make the same mistake Albon's done and get held up by him by at least a lap there. So we can actually see what is quote-unquote a net P2 in our sights just ahead of us. Obviously, it's kind of a quote-unquote because obviously we all have to make our way through traffic. So, you know, if that's anything to go by, it might be a difficult afternoon. But here we go to the inside of Latifi. It's a big old dive, and we've made it work. Lovely overtake there on Latifi. Had to be done, though. But at the moment, this is how it stands. This man is out in the lead by a massive margin to Lando Norris, Ocon, Kvyat. These three doing a one-stop. Start on the mediums, going long. Same with Aiken, our teammate. There he is, Jack Aiken. First time we've seen him. And he's in a very lofty position as well. So, looks like our car is actually just working very well, it would seem, ahead of both Haas cars and then the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, I believe. I also believe that Valtteri Bottas, the race leader, I think he actually qualified on mediums in Q2. So, he's the only one of us top guys who's on mediums doing a one-stop probably, as we can see. Albon! Oh my! Albon! Oh! What? Oh! Alex Albon with a massive incident. How's he in this Grand Prix still? What on earth has just gone on there? It was a little bit too far up the road to fully see what happened there, but it looked like Albon was headed towards the wall. I thought for sure a massive crash in a potential safety car, which is very common around Singapore, but let's have a look. Look, oh my, what on earth have I just witnessed there? What on earth is that? Albon, DRS open, wiggles a bit too much, spins, and somehow catches it. That is the save of the century by Alexander Albon. Here's a different camera view, chase cam, just to watch the entire car wobble, and he's gotten so lucky that his rear tyre did not hit either of those walls properly there, because otherwise he was definitely out of this Grand Prix. I still don't know how he's caught. That's unhuman-like. Obviously, he is an AI. It is a game, so that was a bit unrealistic. As we now go down the inside, though, Albon looking a little bit slow, maybe. I don't know. Maybe he's a little bit flustered off that massive spin. I think I would be, to be honest, and I would be a little bit scared in the cockpit for my life if my life had been flashed before my eyes in that kind of high-speed catch. So he's a little bit slow now, so I'm not blaming him, and we overtake him for that. And now we can try and get on the back of George Russell in the other Williams car. But I'm still absolutely flummoxed at what that was ahead of what I've seen. And now we go around the outside of George Russell in Sector 3. That's how bad his tyre wear is and how bad that Williams car is compared to us now. We go around the outside in Sector 3 at Singapore. So odd to say that, but we've made it work there. You saw in front of your eyes. And as we move on to lap 13, our teammate comes in. A load of people are in now. All of those guys who were on medium tyres and doing a one-stop, including this man Magnussen, who's the last guy to make the pit stop. So we will be up into second place. But of course, remember, we have one more stop to make. Everyone else who's just made their pit stop, they're now going to the end of the Grand Prix on a set of hard tyres, as will Magnussen now as he gets out of the way. So this is the important stage of the Grand Prix. Albon now pressurizing us a little bit, closing up to us, but we both have to push hard to try and make this two-stop work. But unfortunately for me, I think he has better ideas here. He wants to re-overtake me as we passed him very easily in the previous laps in Sector 3. Goes down our inside, then with DRS open, we're going to keep it side by side through the next two corners there, the long way round, giving the space on the inside there, but to be fair, he's got a decent amount of traction to just go through and waltz back onto the racing line, and so he's up the order and actually pushes away, and by the time we come to lap 18, he pits in, but he had already gained about a second there, so I think we may have just lost touch with Albon. Very much like the Belgium Grand Prix when we're ahead of him. You know, eventually push comes to shove and he'll get ahead of us and probably stay ahead of us as the kind of natural downforce. Obviously, the advantage the Red Bull car has versus our car will come in, but whilst you're battling them, you can actually give up a good fight. And for some reason, he was quite slow behind that Williams car after his little high-speed incident, let's say. I don't really know. It wasn't really a spin, but it was a high-speed catch, I think we'll say. But we make our pit stop then onto another set of medium tyres, our last pit stop of the night here at Singapore, and now it's all for us to do as we come out just behind Albon, who's caught up behind the Haas car, just ahead of Raikkonen and also Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes car, and I think that's Ricciardo just behind him. So a big strain here. We've come out in P10, so we are just about in the points-paying positions, but like I said, there are a load of people right now ahead of us in the top 10 that are on a one-stop, so we should be faster, as well as, along with Albon and Hamilton behind us. We all should be able to try and clear these guys. Raikkonen as well, to be fair, but he's on a set of hard hard tires I've just seen behind me, so I don't know why he's gone to a set of hards in a 2-stop race around Singapore. Bit of an odd decision from him, but at the moment, they're all stuck behind Magnussen. Even Hamilton's gone into hard tires, actually, so my bad. It looks like a load of these guys don't really trust their own tyre wear here, as we try and size up Albon as he's stuck behind Magnussen. Can we try and catch him napping into the hairpin, potentially go down the inside? Not to be, but now around the outside instead, actually. What a weird pass to make, but we're going to do it. Great acceleration there, found the traction, overtake mode in the exit for good measure with DRS as well, and we're up into P9. So, don't know what's going on with Albon there. I think he's going slow. He might have some sort of issue in the car maybe, because if that's a continued problem for him, then that definitely might be, but we nearly just rear-end Kevin Magnussen there and have to give up the position back to Alexander Albon because we made a mistake. So again, we're going to get crossed up under braking. We've done that a few times now at Monza, Spa, and now Singapore, as we go to try and re-overtake Albon. And our engineer, I think, has just told us that Albon has an issue with his car. So he's actually legit got a mechanical issue that's going to slow him down. So we re-pass him again, back up into P9. But now we really need to clear Magnussen because there's a chunky portion of clean air ahead of him, and we can close up to Leclerc, who I think is stuck behind the other Haas of Grosjean, I think. So we go down the inside of K-Mag here, late lunge, and using the medium tyre versus the hards. That's the clear difference there in terms of the acceleration and also the bite-in as we enter the corners, and we're up into P8. And yes, it is the other Haas, Grosjean, holding up Leclerc here, and we could go and overtake a Ferrari as well. So we're already mixing up with the big boys this time around, but of course this is all due to the fact that we're on this 2-stop. So we are, even though it's a Ferrari car, because we've got the medium tyres, we should be a little bit quicker, really. And the Ferrari hasn't looked too quick here. He's having issues getting past Grosjean, only now going for the move. But Grosjean comes back at him here. And instead of... I tried to do a little switch from the right to the left there, you might have seen, as I moved my car about. But instead, I'm just stuck here trying to place my car, wondering where I can stick the nose in to make this pass on Grosjean, as Leclerc finally gets the job done on the Frenchman in the Haas, using a load of our overtake mode here just to try and make this dart round the outside before we enter what used to be the Singapore Sling. And we're up into P7 and immediately already sizing up Leclerc a little bit. I feel confident in this car. Like I said in qualifying, this car, with the upgrades especially, the lightweight, the weight reduction, the engine power, coupled with the fact we're running higher wings but not too high to keep us to not be too draggy, this car's got some great balance right now and good race pace as Aitken comes in. And I'm really upset that Aitken was not on a 1-stop. That means he's on a 2-stop. Aitken could have done a wonderful 1-stop there and could have finished quite near to us. Instead, it looks like he went from medium tyres to medium tyres and now was on a set of, I assume, hopefully softs now at the end of the Grand Prix. But that's a little bit unfortunate now. Well, I had a bit of a high hope when I saw Aitken earlier in the race, so high up around these Haas cars. I thought, he might actually finish ahead of us here in a very high position. But no, not to be, unfortunately. There's no way to tell your teammate what to do in terms of strategy. There kind of should be. That's maybe a kind of idea for the next game. You should be able to maybe make your teammate strategy since you are the team owner. But anyway, away from that fact, going back to the racing here at hand as we try to overtake Leclerc around the outside, DRS use and overtake mode all the way through that corner to make sure we get the extra oomph of power, and we're up into P5. Leclerc tried to fight as hard as he could to maintain some sort of pride in the Ferrari, I guess, being overtaken by a new team in Formula 1, but there we go. We've got the pace, and now we're closing up to Danica Fiat in the AlphaTauri. It looks like Ocon will be a little bit too far for us, but we go sailing round on the left to Kvyat, use the overtake mode again on the exit, get that extra burst of speed, lock up on the front left. Kvyat switchbacks us, so it's a good battle here with the Russian once again this season, but we are finally going to get that up into P4. But like I said, just before we overtook Kvyat, unfortunately Ocon is too far away, as well as Norris. So fair play to Lando Norris and Esteban Ocon. They've done a great 1-stop to get up into P2 and P3, but Valtteri Bottas wins the Singapore Grand Prix. But what a weird podium. Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon, and then we come home in P4, which is our new highest finishing position. Remember, P5 was our highest before at the Monaco and Hungarian Grand Prix, but here we are, Singapore, P4. I guess we just like street circuits. I guess our car just liked street circuits, because that was a fantastic race. Obviously, we got massively lucky with qualifying and how that went for us in P6 on the grid, but we made the most of it today, and we've got the just rewards.
What a great race it's been then. Another classic Singapore Grand Prix, and they've held on to take the checkered flag here today. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs. and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
So there we have it, our new highest finishing position, P4. We still have to wait for our very first podium in Formula 1, but I don't mind. We can wait. It'll just make that, you know, even sweeter, I think, because we've had so many good races without having a podium or like a freak race win. So I think once we do, you know, get on the podium for the first time or win a race, I think it will feel really, really sweet, because we've already had so many amazing races and still not had it. So for us, at least in my career, it's kind of becoming quite a tough thing to actually manage, as you saw there with the R&D chart. Everything's so close, and as you can clearly see here, in terms of points paying positions, it is so close. You know, Renault do gain some decent points on us, but we overtake AlphaTauri for the first time properly here, I guess, because we've kind of overtook them technically before when we were level on points, but we're now up into P7 of the championship. But the fight's not over. There's still plenty of races to go. Renault really improved, and they are looking actually pretty quick now in these races, so it might be hard to actually keep up with them in P6 there, but it's also going to be hard to keep the AlphaTauris behind, because you saw Fiat was only just behind us there. You know, they're always just constantly there in the top 10, so it's going to be a continuous fight to bring this home essentially for P7, but I would be pretty happy with P7 exactly in the championship, because like I said, my lucky number, so that would be kind of a nice omen for the rest of the series, I guess, in a way. But we do end up beating Ricciardo in a few things in the rivalry, but it actually means we're level pegging at this race, so he is technically beating us by 1 little point in this rivalry in-game. We've got 5 races left to try and overturn that, of course, but it might be hard. As I said, the Renault is looking very quick. At the end of this episode, I've actually got to admit, I mistakenly completely glossed over and forgot about the fastest lap goal. So, it's no one's fault but mine, but we've only got 250,000 on bonus payouts when we could have easily got nearly 1 million in bonus payouts. So, that is my bad. I don't know what happened. I'm usually so good at remembering these things, but when I went to practice, I just rattled through the practice programs and completely forgot I had to go out on a set of soft tires to set a fastest lap in FP1. So that was my bad. That's unfortunate, but of course the only one that's feeling the real pain is me doing the career mode series. So I'll put my hands up and just accept that fact. So anyway, away from that mistake alone, it was a fantastic race. Our best race today, our best race weekend today. Best grid slot of P6, best qualifying of actual technically P7, and then best race finish P4 on the up and up. Hopefully next episode the same again, maybe some upgrades as well, hopefully. So let's just carry on and continue the good vibes in this career mode season. I hope you guys have been enjoying it and have enjoyed this race. If you did, hit that like button, let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.